Alex, it is so nice to chat with you. How are you today?
I am okay.
I know a big part of why we started this segment is your love of coffee. And I
Indeed.
know you told me that before COVID hit, one of your goals was to go to all the cafes in Montreal. How far did you get?
So I did not keep track of it just because it I figured I wouldn't be able to achieve it. But
Right.
because I like to study a lot in cafes. I am very productive. I love coffee. So my goal was to taste every single coffee shop in Montreal that was achievable by either bike or public transit because I don't have a car. Then a lot of cafes closed, and then I was like, well, this is gonna be for another year, I guess.
You kind of have this weird relationship with coffee. It hasn't been super strong from the beginning, and it's also affected you in different ways, right?
I started drinking more coffee in Cégep, and Cégep is like between high school and university in Quebec. At some point, I had to study for a midterm, and I decided to have one huge cup of coffee at 10 p.m. and one huge cup of coffee at 1 a.m. to keep me for studying. For about 3 weeks after, I thought I had an aversion to coffee because I had an eye twitch. I was feeling nauseous all the time and my head was hurting like hell. So at that moment, it was very hard. I thought I would never drink coffee again. My determination for to keep drinking coffee was higher than my fear of it.
I didn't drink coffee really my whole life. I remember the first coffee I had was a coffee from Tim Hortons, and nothing against, Tim Hortons, but like I hated it. Like I just, and I know coffee's a big acquired taste and like people don't like it right away, obviously. But like I legit spit it out during university. I was just like, no, why would I do that? And then you happen to find yourself in Europe, and I was actually in Portugal at the time, and my partner ordered some coffee for herself, and she's like, why don't you just try an espresso? I'm like, sure, why not? And I was like legit hooked from that point on. So,
It's really funny because usually people go from I really like coffee, which is more sugar than it's coffee, but
mhm.
dislike the strong taste of actual coffee. But you seem to be like the opposite.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, like I don't mind the taste of the actual espresso, but for me to have like a full cup of like drip coffee, I just wouldn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've had a few iced coffees too this summer, so look at me.
Yay. My go-to is a cortado. I find it's a perfect balance between strong and not too strong.
Okay.
I've tried espressos and macchiatos, and those are a bit strong for me. And since, like as I told you, I like to study in cafes. Since I'm there for a while, I like to take my time a bit to drink my coffee and not to have like I hate this strong taste of coffee when it's cold.
Hmm.
It's like lukewarm. I'm like, me, either it has to be really hot or like a cold brew or something.
Yeah, but I think heat is such a big part of coffee too, right? Like it's the warmth of it.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
warms your soul
it
at the
warms your
same
soul.
time.
But you told me that you can be clumsy. Is that correct?
It is correct.
For instance, right before this little interview we're doing, you banged your leg on the desk.
We see. Ow, problem.
So yeah, like is it a daily kind of thing for you?
It's a minutely kind of thing.
Minutely.
I just knock everything. Like in Zoom calls, usually you're gonna see me like do like just because I knocked my knee on something. Like
Right. Yeah.
it's casual.
It's very hard not to laugh at people like falling, right? I think this is like a universal thing in any country, in any language, religion, whatever. If someone falls, obviously you would hope that they're not hurt, but it's pretty damn funny to look at, right? So I've had tons of experiences. I'm a pretty tall guy. I've got big feet. You would think that would give me balance, but it really doesn't. I'm falling all over the place all the time. For instance, like on a bus, I remember in high school, like taking the bus to school, like you're kind of standing, holding on, like, and it makes the sharp left turn and like I'm going flying. I was in my parents' house when I was younger and, I was in a silly mood and I was like kind of dancing around the house on my way to the basement. And as I'm turning the corner to go down the basement stairs, I like popped up because I was dancing and I hit my head on the ceiling and then went straight down the steps. Like boom, 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 boom.
I think you got your own category of clumsy. I tend to break glasses. Like at my friend's birthday in high school, we were more or less close, but we had like like I was in the volleyball team and we celebrated her birthday, everyone together. And it was the first time I went to her house. And within 10 minutes, I broke 2 glasses of orange juice. And it was the first time I met her parents. I wasn't close friends with them quite yet. So it was really, really embarrassing. And everyone kept laughing at me. I was like, but I'm so embarrassed. And I felt so bad.
You know how to make a good impression, a good
I
first impression.
do.
Youth mental health continues to be a huge crisis in Canada and around the world. According to Statistics Canada, suicide is the second leading cause of death for youth between the ages of 15 to 24 over the last 2 decades. It's a huge problem. It needs taking care of, and it needs the urgency that it deserves. COVID is very much still a thing in our world. We're still under pandemic. The cases, certainly in Ontario and Quebec, are at an all-time high. Maybe just a few comments about how you think students and youth specifically are struggling kind of the most during a pandemic and going back to school, and how you're a student yourself, right? So like how has life really altered for you, and maybe other experiences you've heard from other classmates or friends?
I know for a lot of people, it's really hard not to see our friends or not to see anyone. Like when you talk about social distancing, that was exactly it, you know? Like it's really hard to not see people, not see your friends, not see your family. I myself struggled with isolation. After 2 weeks, I just called my friend. I was like, I cannot do this anymore for 2 more weeks. As humans, we are social beings. We like to be around people and we need to be around people. And when you take that away, it's not a good feeling. Like, obviously, it's for a greater cause. It's to avoid more deaths and more weight on the health system that is already struggling without COVID. For me, it's a matter of respect for healthcare workers as well. I study physiotherapy, so I'm going to be a healthcare worker, and I've seen like how they struggle during the first wave. And when I hear people be like, but it's not as high as the first wave, I'm like, but can you shut up and just think about other people than yourself?
Yeah, people being selfish is a huge part of this, right? And yeah, I mean, look, like the cases now compared to what it was in March, there's not even a comparison, right? Like we thought March was like the worst because it was all very new, and what is this world we're looking at? But in terms of like daily cases, like it's much higher now. As you mentioned, you're a student, you're a huge mental health advocate. Is there something particular with systemic change that you kind of go to all the time? Like, what are you most passionate about when it comes to changing a system in the mental health sector?
To me, from my own experience and perspective, there's 2 things. There's access to resources. Here in Quebec right now, the waiting time to have access to public mental health resources is between 6 and 24 months, which is absolutely ridiculous because a lot of people struggle, like a lot, I think. 46% of people between 18 and 24 said they were struggling. One thing that some people are trying to do is to have like free access to psychotherapy. And I heard that in the UK, they're already doing that. So I really think we should go in that direction. And also something that I think is like extremely important is education. Because one big barrier keeping people from reaching out or from taking care of themselves is lack of knowledge and lack of comfort talking about mental health. So we don't know how to help someone. We don't know how to be there for them. We don't know when to reach out, who to reach out to, etc. So I think that we really need more mental health education in elementary schools, high schools, like on every level, as much as we have physical education, right? Because we're taught about nutrition, we're taught about physical activity, which are extremely important for your health, but we are very rarely taught about mental health in the curriculum. Like in school, we have some conferences here and there sometimes, but it also often has to be like the student initiative, which I find, again, ridiculous. So yeah, I really think that the system should focus more on prevention and on education.
Yeah, no, well said. If you don't learn about mental health in high school or university and then you graduate from school or you're into the workforce, when you hear mental health at that point, you could have a negative response to it in the sense that you don't think it's important because you didn't learn about it growing up. So, this conversation about like, well, if it wasn't in school and I'm only first hearing it now and I'm 22, 23, 24 years old, why is it important? I don't need it. I'm fine. I'm an adult. And that's to your point about it really needs to be instituted in the curriculum so much earlier than it is or not at all as it is now, right? So huge point and super important. Thank you for doing the work you do. Elevating youth voices is a huge part of it, and youth need to be involved in kind of designing and implementing these policies. So keep up the good work, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.